the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 91, recorded Friday, May 17th, 2013. Theoretically.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. Welcome to AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Albright, and I will be your host for the day. Thank you so very much for joining us. With us this week is Miss Kelly Perkins. She's from Vaddio. She is the Marketing and Communications Manager. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Also with us is Dr. Yoram Solomon, the Vice President of Corporate Strategy at Penview, and also the candidate for the Plano Independent School District for 2015. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm good.
We'll explain that in a second. Also with us is my buddy Craig MacCormack, Editor-at-Large, yay, at Commercial Integrator. How are you, sir?
Great. Glad to be here again.
And last but not least, Mr. Chris Neto, a consultant at AV Helpdesk and the man behind Red Band. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. This week we're going to talk about CEA and the Hall of Fame that they put out, not necessarily theirs, but we're going to come up with our own. Maybe the Pro AV or the InfoComm Hall of Fame. Craig, actually, Commercial Integrator had a really good piece about the Boston bombings and the cameras that were used, so we're going to discuss that a little bit. Double speed on fiber, and my question in general about why fiber still is not as cheap as it maybe should be. And also the voice-controlled home. Real quickly, though, our compatriot here, Dr. Solomon, was a recent candidate for the school board. So congratulations for that, sir.
Well, thank you. As long as you didn't congratulate me for losing that election.
No, it's just even for getting out there, you know. I mean, the one thing, I went to an InfoComm roundtable here recently, and the one thing that I just find fascinating is guys in our industry, and women as well, people in our industry, have a tendency to just volunteer out just in general in their community. And I think stuff like that, you know, going after the school board, whether or not you won it or not, is, you know, yes, winning would have been better. But the fact that you actually went out there to, you know, to give of your time and your energy, I think is commendable. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. I got a lot of support. I'm still amazed by the amount of support, and the number of votes I got would have won me 12 out of the last 14 races in the last 6 years. So it's something, and I'm going to take another shot at it.
Yeah, see, 2015, Dr. Yoram Solomon. And he's a doctor, for crying out loud. So I can't vote for him. I don't live in Plano. So first up, although, you know,
you can move before 2000.
No. Here's the deal. I live in Illinois, right? I'm in Southwest Illinois, basically a suburb of St. Louis. But you know what? Close enough to Chicago where I could make some Chicago politics happen. I'm just saying. You know, I know people. We're going to talk about InfoComm and the CTS exam. Maybe I shouldn't have used that. You know, that cheating introduction into an exam. But hey, I did. So we're going to keep going. Every couple of years, because of the standards that we've got when it comes to the CTS exam, they kind of revisit it every few years. And this is from our friends over at avnetwork.com. They interviewed Melissa Taggart from InfoComm. She's in charge of education over there. Education and certification at InfoComm, and basically says, look, you know what, this new test is going to reflect all the networking technology that's been happening. The whole convergence thing, I hesitate using that word anymore, simply because sometimes it feels a little overdone. But it's legitimate, right? It's something that we all experience on a daily basis. Kelly, we'll kick it off with you guys because, you know, Vaddio is no stranger to, you know, twisted pair technology and things of that nature. Is this something that maybe had to be done? Is this just, you know, InfoComm keeping themselves as well as us, you know, up to date in the industry?
I think so. You know, it's funny because we were actually talking about it in a meeting this morning, and just how, you know, we've kind of went from, analog cameras to, going over USB and a lot of streaming on our products. And there's, with the addition of VoIP and everything that's kind of happening in the industry, I totally believe that people need to be updated on, like networking in the AV industry and the convergence of AV and IT, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my background, since I've been in the industry has been very much, AV versus, IT and networks. And I have learned probably more in the past year about networks than I ever had planned to learn. So yes, I think it's important that we keep up to date with it. I would also say, on one hand, I would love to retake some of the classes if they've redone the classes as well, whether they're online or at the InfoComm show. And it kind of begs the question of, do you think people who already have their CTS should be required to almost do, kind of restudy up their RUs? I mean, what do you guys think?
I have a. I shouldn't say this. I took my CTS when it was online, so I don't.
Well, that's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
want to
Like,
take it again.
I took it like 5 years ago too, so it's like, how up to date is it really? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Dadgummit, Kelly. That's a good point, though.
But here's the thing: you also take classes in college on microprocessors, and let's face it, the microprocessors you learned in college and the programming languages you took there are not relevant anymore. So to some extent, it is up to you to be up to speed and relevant, and that's how you get jobs and positions and things. It's not just going to be the test that makes you differentiates you.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. It's just I try and keep up to date with education and renewing and collecting RUs and whatnot and just doing it for myself. But does everybody have the time to do that?
Well, no, and it actually, Dak, you did start out. Okay, my brain's going to work now. All right, it's a good question, and let's kick this one around. Because it's a certification, and I don't know because I'm not Cisco certified. Does anybody know if you have to retake a Cisco certification test or anything that's equivalent, Microsoft certified or anything else like that?
That I don't know.
Yeah, see, and that
Not sure.
I don't either, and that's Kelly's question is legitimate. Whether or not we need to, if after maybe not every 3 years retake the test, but maybe every 6 years or every 9 years, every 2 or 3 times that the CTS renews, we should retake the test, kind of like taking the driver's behind the wheel after you hit 70 or something.
Or even do some sort of like addendum.
Yeah.
And if you want to be up to speed with technology, then you really need to take that test twice a week.
Oh,
You're
all
right.
right, Dr. Solomon.
He has a good point too.
Yes, he does.
Technology just does change quite a bit.
It does, unfortunately. Craig, is this something where InfoComm is just keeping us up to date and all of us that have CTS?
Yeah.
You say Craig or Chris?
Doesn't matter.
Both
Go ahead,
at
Chris.
the same time.
You go,
Chris,
Craig.
All right. Well, yeah, I do think it's a good thing, and it shows that InfoComm is obviously willing to, change and update with the times. Obviously, as an association that's based on companies that work in the technology space, they have to be willing to adapt, and certainly they're showing that they do that, and this is just one way that they do that. So it's good to see that they're kind of realizing that their membership is changing and that their needs are changing and that they're kind of adapting with that as well.
Mr. Neto, is this, first of all, is this them keeping us up, but also talk a little bit about what we were talking about a second ago when it comes to maybe retesting or an addendum, something where the CTS for us old guys that have had it for a while, it's still relevant.
Well, I mean, that's a huge argument online right now in internet forums, AV internet forums regarding CTS, credibility of the CTS. And, does a CTS automatically, ensure that you go to the next level in your company? That's not there's been a lot of scuttlebutt regarding that. Now, I see it as like you just said before, it's your driver's license. It basically says that you read and understood, what goes on in the industry at the time. You have a basic understanding of it, but everything that you're going to do from that point on is renewal credits. So, you're renewing the certification that is, by you participating in these classes and going to seminars and being part of webinars, and however way you collect your RUs is keeping you fresh with what's going on. If you're going to put an exam on somebody every year, as quickly as this industry changes, that's asking a bit much. But, I think that as you are accumulating your points and you have to, if you want to stay relevant in what we do in the technology industry, not just in AV, you have to keep current with what's going on. I mean, that's just a fact.
Well, maybe not every year, but, maybe every, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I was actually looking at, I'm getting ready to go to some manufacturing training. And I got my CTS in 06 or 07, somewhere in there. So I've already.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
But Tim, now you're relying on a test to say that you're current. Meanwhile, that test may still have 35 millimeter slide projectors on it. You know what I'm saying?
What's wrong with 35 millimeter slide projectors? I work in education, brother. I still got those things.
I was just about to say, I forget who I'm talking to. You having that foundation of the old stuff is great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I learned how to edit music or audio with razors and the old tapes, slicing and pasting and stuff like that. But that concept is used in program that you use today for editing sound, which is you're basically, instead of manually cutting it and going back and forth, you're doing that now with a computer. Yeah. So the concept is there, and I think that's what it's all about. It's all about the concepts of how things work. Things that happened 10 years ago or 12 years ago when I got into the industry, and I came into the industry into a video conferencing company, that was solely ISDN. But the basic principles of how video works applied today. But now they're on IP, and God knows how many transformations have happened in between then. But it's still very relevant to what we do today. Aside from obviously the network has changed.
Yeah, and what some of the transportation of the video and the audio has changed, but it's like you said, it's still the endpoints are kind of the same. So
yep, we're all going from A to B. That's it.
Yeah. From Electronic House, our old buddy Grant Klauser wrote this. It is a voice pod, voice control for your house, and it's made by House Logix. It's exactly what you think it is. It's kind of a who does not have an Xbox or Kinect here?
I don't.
You don't. Okay.
I don't use it.
But it's there, right? I mean, have you guys interfaced with it vocally yet? Or tried to, at least?
I have tried doing the Kinect games, and only with the doors closed, blinds down, will I try a Kinect game, because not good. But I have played with the Kinect, and I mean it's definitely interesting. I mean, I'm a big fan of gesture control. I just don't believe people should be dancing in public.
Not in public, no. And the bad thing about the Kinect games is that it actually records you and then plays you back as it's bad.
Yeah, it is.
But here's the thing. This reminds me of that, right? This my kids are 7 and 5 now, and the Kinect also has voice control, right? And there are some. They're still messing around with some of the filters, because sometimes they'll be watching a show, and the show itself will say something. Something will some kind of vocal will come out of the show, part of the script, and the Kinect will think that it's someone in the audience talking to it. And my kids have gotten into a habit where they'll say Xbox do whatever, Xbox play, Xbox stop, Xbox no, and that's what this thing reminds me of. It is a vocal interaction for your house, right? And Chris, Mr. Neto, we'll start with you on this, because you said you're a big fan of gesture. The one issue with gesture maybe is the shorthand. If any of you remember the Palm Pilot from the 90s, They had something called I think it was called graffiti, and that was their shorthand for the letters that you were going to put down. Yeah. That's my problem with gestures, that there's got to be some sort of shorthand. Is this maybe leapfrogging that?
No, I don't think that. Now, I don't think that voice is the complete answer because it has its deficiencies as well. But if you take the two of those things that Connect does, which is gesture and voice, and one triggers the other as a confirmation, then you have a solid. Now you have, you say up and your right hand goes up. It now has positive confirmation that you want the volume to go up, for example. So, yeah, I don't believe in voice control in the house. I mean, look at it on your Bluetooth on your phone. You know how many times I've said, I was just complaining today that I pocket dial people. Well, the other problem that I have with my phone is I say, call mom, and the next thing you know, it's calling home, or it's not 100% reliable. And I think that people expect that 100% reliability, and you're not going to get that right today. It may be down the line somewhere, but it's definitely come a long way.
So here's the thing. It is definitely down the line. I'm with you. I don't believe in the quality right now is not there, but it's not there because of the way voice recognition works right now. It really is trying to detect a single word. And if you think about how you think and how you analyze what you hear, you probably don't hear 20-25%. You don't understand 20-25% of the words being said, each word at a time. But out of context, you do understand the entire sentence, and you can understand the tone of voice, which a voice recognition system still doesn't. And so, I did a kind of a back of the envelope analysis, and I reached a conclusion that by 2028, a processing power of a single microprocessor chip is going to be as strong as the processing power of our brain. And so we may not have to wait until 2028, but the voice recognition algorithms need to get to the level where they can understand out of context. They can understand based on things that they've learned. So there's an element of artificial intelligence. And it is going to get to look, this product right now is listed at $650. So it is going to be available at a price point like that. So I don't know that we need to complement it with any gestures. I just think that we're on our way, and we will get there to where voice recognition really does work.
What scares me, Tim, about what Dr. Solomon just said is that at some point the robot is going to come back from the future and is going to start chasing us down.
Stop it.
Well, actually, by the way, this is what I wrote in my blog entry a few months ago. 2028 is when they're going to have the same capability of us. 2030 is when they're going to have twice as much. How long do you think it's going to take before they realize that they have absolutely no use for us?
Yeah, that's
2035.
So start digging a hole, in the cave somewhere. AI is scary, man. It's self-awareness.
There are so many references here that I cannot decide which one to go to. So, Kelly, in about 10 years, your iPod will be smarter than you. Is this just voice control in general? I mean, are we just looking for something here that's easier than buttons? Is maybe that's why these things keep coming out, whether it's gesture or voice?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I've played Connect at my friend's house, and every time I play it, it just assumes that I'm a boy, and it doesn't think I'm a female. So, I mean,
I'm sorry. How does it oh, never mind. Never mind. I don't want to know.
Don't
yeah,
go there.
exactly. So, I mean, if that's the case now, I mean, how good are these products really? You know what I mean? It just seems like there's a lot of malfunctions, and maybe in 15 or 20 years they'll continue to get, but as far as I'm concerned, I really don't mind pressing a button.
I'm the same way. I'm kind of looking at what this does and reading about it and hearing you guys talking about what this product might do, and I'm thinking these are things that don't seem like they're all that difficult. Turning up the volume or dimming the lights or whatever the case may be. That I don't have a problem doing that at this point. So doesn't seem like something I necessarily need. Although once the AIs are here, who knows what might happen.
Yeah, and the last thing you want is it's the middle of the night, you get up for a glass of water, you turn on the light, and as you're walking down your stairs, you sneeze and it takes it as a shut off on you. And next thing you know, you're flying down the stairs because it just heard what it thought was, something else. It's going to assume. So, yeah, you don't want that.
I'm going to make an interesting transition here. So all the AIs is going to be smarter than us, and they're going to be controlled by the government, and they're going to know what we're doing because of the cameras that they have everywhere.
That's true.
Do you like that? Do you like that?
There's the lead in.
In all serious, it's a serious topic, but it's also an AV topic here. Talking about the Boston bombing, and the way that Craig starts out this story is very interesting to me because he starts it off almost like not a murder mystery, but a very good a suspense. Quote: If Whiskey's Steakhouse on Boylston.
Boylston. Yep.
Boylston. I'm from St. Louis, dude. Hadn't rescheduled a service call from CCTV Services in Farmingdale, New York, to look at a camera issue picked up by the CCTV's DVR health monitoring program at the popular eatery on April 15th. The bombing suspects may still be at large or possibly worse. So, Craig, let's talk about cameras for a second here, and the fact that as all of us that watch this unfold could see, the way these guys got caught was the fact that everybody, and not everybody, but a lot of these institutions, a lot of these steakhouses and bars and grills have got these cameras around, the CCTVs.
Yeah, and what's interesting in the story is the company that installed these cameras said that a lot of the external cameras that restaurants and stores and stuff are getting are now more for to prevent lawsuits from happening more than protecting themselves from internal theft or those sort of things. That 5 years ago it used to be about protecting yourself from your employees, and now it's protecting yourself from a lawyer for slip and fall or whatever the case may be. Somebody making up some sort of story. So it this restaurant put in these cameras only a couple of years ago, and actually had one of their cameras was down, and the service, the monitoring program that they had sent an alert to the installer, and the installer was scheduled to come and fix the camera on Marathon Monday, and would have had to shut the entire system down, which means it's possible that these two guys may not have been picked up on someone else's camera. Who knows? Yeah. But it's just kind of the whole thing is pretty interesting, I thought.
That is pretty interesting, and the other thing that's interesting about it is a kind of a side story to that is the fact that their system sent out an email. It wasn't like someone actively said, "Hey, there's something wrong here." Right.
The way the system works, it basically sends an alert to the integration company and tells them that there's a problem, and then they contact their customer and tell them, we need to come and check out your system because there's whatever the issue may be.
By the way, if we fast forward a few years or maybe a few decades, right now, here's what happens. You look at the video and you go, oh, these are the terrorists. I know that these are the terrorists. Would have been so much better if you watched that video before it happened and not after the fact. However, you're not going to man all those cameras. Let's add more cameras and just have people look at them 24 hours a day to try and identify someone who's behaving in an irrational way or in a suspicious way. But I'm going back to artificial intelligence. There is a professor, a friend of mine here in UT Dallas, who's working on a way for a camera to detect that someone just fell, but that someone didn't just go down on their knees to the floor, but actually fell, which means that there is a potential medical problem and causes an alert. So as I said, fast forward 2 decades, those cameras should be intelligent. And there are people working on that in different companies that I'm aware of, to the point where something like this could actually be stopped before it happens.
So, in other words, the algorithms are detecting people's heart rates and blood pressure and whether or not they're excited and kind of almost like a lie detector built into it.
There is a little company in Israel that demonstrated something, and you can find that on the Texas Instruments website because I visited with them when I worked at Ford Texas Instruments. Little startup company, we went into a room, they had a camera look at us, and that camera told us the level of sugar in our blood.
Oh, shut up. No way.
Based on the color of our skin and changes in colors of skin. So, it was pretty rudimentary at the time, and they have improved it since then. And now they have this little visual thing that can tell you the level of sugar so you don't have to, draw blood
fingerprint
3 times a day if you're diabetic. But those things are coming out. It's just a matter of refining an algorithm to the point where you can detect something that otherwise you would just ignore.
All right. The one thing that's always cool about when I have Dr. Solomon on, I always hear stuff like this, and it makes me really, really excited and also want to move to Montana in the mountains somewhere.
Really, really scared.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, Tim,
yes.
regarding the whole camera thing,
yes,
it's kind of fitting that the last bit of confirmation that we had that it was that person or that it was, the suspect was the thermal camera that the helicopters flew overhead and shot him, shot video of him in the boat, and, the infrared camera picked him up inside the boat. So they were scanning, there was a lot of technology used, and that's the amazing part of that whole week is, the amount of, not just from a closed circuit stuff that Craig wrote about, but, once you start adding in the social media aspect of it and how law enforcement went to, the internet and used the internet as a tool was pretty impressive.
Yeah. And digital signage was another piece that was used pretty heavily. All the billboards along the highways in Massachusetts, they flipped to the emergency notifications and stuff like that. So that was all pretty interesting.
Yeah, and to think about it, that they shut down that. I mean, we're not talking about a small town. We're talking about one of the major cities in the country, completely on lockdown, and everybody was in tune with what was going on based on technology. That's pretty impressive. that was amazing. So
sure was.
But to add another piece to that, Tim,
yes.
There was a thing on 60 Minutes not too long ago where they went over and talked about how New York City has moved, and this is going back to September 11th, how New York City has moved, into that using technology in the war on terrorism or the crime or whatever. And if you think that a camera is the only way, I mean, they have sensors in New York now that they could not go into detail about, obviously, on TV, that will pick up somebody with, who just went and got a radioactive iodine put in them for maybe a thyroid exam or something, or thyroid treatment. They can find that person on a boat in the Hudson River.
Really?
Ooh.
Because once that person got out there, their sensors picked it up. Sure enough, police went over, took a look at them, and there it is. So what we know is what we know, but there is a lot more to it. So, all right.
Wow.
Now that we have this whole conspiracy and Big Brother watching us.
Yeah. On that note, I love my government.
I want to see how you transition to the next story.
I'll do it like this. You're listening to AV Week. We have with us Ms. Kelly Perkins from Vaddio, Dr. Yoram Solomon from Penview, Chris Neto from AV Helpdesk and Red Band, and Craig MacCormack from Commercial Integrator. Yeah, because I got nothing for the next one. Hey, here's the thing, and then actually the next two kind of go together, and that the one is about Samsung, and the other one is about fiber, and they kind of interact. The first one is the fact that Samsung is doing the 5G wireless standard, and Oh, good Lord. I'm getting 4K exhaustion and 8K. I'm getting K exhaustion, I guess. And I saw this story and I'm like, oh, good Lord. Seriously? Another 5K and 5G and 6G and 7G. But when you look at it, it's like, holy cow, seriously. When you look at stuff like 3D and even 1080p, and if anybody develops 1080p deep color, great, hallelujah, we'll have something there. But you start looking at ways to do this stuff wirelessly. You need stuff like what Samsung's doing here. Dr. Solomon, you are the smartest technologist that I personally know, so we'll start with you on this. Is this maybe a way for Samsung to give us really true HD wirelessly, or is it something totally that I'm not even thinking of?
So a couple of things. First of all, please call me Yoram, not Dr. Solomon. I told you already. I'm not. As my daughter said, I'm a doctor, but not the useful kind. By the way,
I love that joke. By the way,
that story, I kind of the picture at the top of that story is that F-18F crossing the sound barrier. You kind of lost me after that picture. I didn't look at the article.
Oh,
but
sorry.
No, seriously. I was actually involved with the creation of the LTE standard and 802.11g and 802.11n and so on. And one of the things I have to say is that you need to ask yourself, what is the bandwidth that I really need for an application? And I remember back from the 802.11g standard when we're coming up with 54G and everybody, 54 megabits per second, and everybody said, we need this. And nobody really cared about the fact that you're getting a 1.5 megabit per second DSL coming into your house. So what exactly do you need 54 megabit per second for? And the bottom line is that you care about speed because you can have it, and not necessarily because you need it. Because let's face it, high definition, you can get high definition at a pretty large screen, not just a small screen, for about 2-3 megabits per second in good quality with H.264, MPEG-4, and a few others. And so do you really need higher speed? Now, then the question comes in how do you implement it? And one of the things Samsung is trying, and I kind of followed some of the links from this story beyond to what Samsung was working on. And they're trying to develop kind of a de facto standard. And, fortunately or unfortunately, I've spent so many years in standards organizations to try and drive standards. It would only take off once multiple companies adopt it and agree on what the standard is. There's a lot of intellectual property that goes into that. But the other thing is that, especially with wireless standards, you need to be very careful because when they sell you, this is as much bandwidth that you're going to get, and this is the range you're going to get, it's just like when a car salesman tells you that you're going to get $5,000 cashback and 0.9% APR. What you're kind of missing is that the or in between. It's either or. So those wireless standards, you really need to be very close to the cell, whether it's macro cell or micro cell, to really benefit from it. And if you're trying to be 2 kilometers away, as they claim, you're not getting that bandwidth.
So do we have standards on like what we are getting? Are we getting?
We have standards. What?
In other words, if we're like 2 kilometers away, like they're saying, are we getting not even 720? Are we getting, or is it compressed?
No, it's compressed. It's compressed either way, and so you can get 720p on phones. It's really a matter of where you are. With LTE coming out, there was really a big push initially to come up with microcells because you have to wonder whether on a highway I need to watch 1080p or 720p on the phone. I probably need to do that when I'm in a mall or in any other public place where I'm going to care. And by the way, I'm going to be much closer to the base station to get that type of bandwidth.
That's a very good point, by the way. You should not be watching 720p on the road. You should be driving. So
yes, not more than standard definition. When you drive.
nothing more than SD, because that won't make you crash.
Or text.
Yeah, or texting. Good for it. Actually, I don't think. Yeah, there's a couple different laws depending on what state you live in. Kelly, is this? Dr. Solomon makes a very good point. This is. Is this maybe Samsung's next generation, or helping us get to the next generation of wireless video?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like they said, it's going to be a long ways down the road. So who knows what's going to happen between now and then? I mean, just think about how far we've gone in the last couple of years with high definition and running it over, different avenues. And I don't know, to be honest.
That's all right. Chris, is this something where we should even worry about yet? Because Kelly's right. Who knows where we're going to be in 2 or 3 years by the time this gets up and running?
Not for the average user. Maybe for certain applications with remote video, people that maybe will benefit from higher bandwidths, with the cell phone, with cell phone internet, maybe remote users with a laptop that want to hotspot in, or reporters that are out, shooting video and streaming live back to a central office or something like that. That maybe in that application, I don't see the need for somebody playing Minecraft at with 5G speed, or Angry Birds. What are they going to do with it? 4G is plenty fast for what I've done. I mean, could it be better? Yeah, I mean, maybe with 5G, I wouldn't have drop-offs in a Skype call or something like that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't justify why I would need it. If it's there and they're offering it, it's just another reason for the wireless companies to, bump up your cell phone bill. But, when I'm home, I switch to Wi-Fi. And if they're going to update wireless to 5G, what are they going to do about internet speeds to the home? Is that going to be equivalent or faster?
Or it also might be a way for them to cut wires completely and just drive wireless to the home. So,
well, then that's something that I think we've discussed here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Is, that's the future of cable. Like, where's cable going to go? Is cable going to go away? Because there's been a lot of talk about cutting the cord and people getting rid of cable in general. I can envision the future where we just have an internet feed in, and then everything is on the internet, and you get what you want off of it. You need those higher speeds to do some of this stuff. I mean, you go to the home theater side of our business, and they want to see, you talk 4K. I know you hate Ks and 8Ks and 4Ks, and you're all K'd out.
I don't hate them. I love 4K and I love 8K. It's just every week there's a new story about somebody doing something. So.
Well, that's
there was
because
one this week, and I was tired of it, so I didn't do it.
It's the hot Me Too right now.
Yeah,
So everybody's gonna, and plus InfoComm's coming up, so that's part of the shtick. But you gotta, if you're gonna look at the home side that want to deliver, the high quality 4K movies, then maybe that's an application to increase the bandwidth on the home side. But for mobile users, I mean, I don't know. I don't. Maybe down the road, because like Dr. Solomon said, as long as there is a need. If the processing power is going to be there in your cell phones, what good is having a 5G wireless service if your phone can't keep up with it? But as phones increase in horsepower, it can do more things. I mean, you never thought that you can carry the power of a laptop, on a phone.
Yeah.
By the way, Chris, you brought up another interesting point, which is the carriers themselves. So you remember that the fact that the base station, this is really the scope of the research that Samsung is doing, the fact that the base station can communicate with my phone at 1 gigabit per second or beyond, and support multiple phones this way doesn't mean that they have the backbone for it to carry it all the way to the internet. And it doesn't mean that the operators, the carriers, are going to be happy providing it, because it's going to cost them a lot more, where it's really marginal value, as you described it. It's marginal value for you. And this just reminds me when AT&T was the first company to start giving away or selling the iPhones, and they were talking about the video that you can get and everything. And I remember that once they started shipping them out, they started calling those iPhone users bandwidth hogs, because you're hogging the bandwidth, you're using video. And I was thinking, that's exactly what you told us we should do. This is how you sold us the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And where did unlimited plans go since then?
That's right.
Gone.
Well,
they've all disappeared. Well, you know what, Tim, let's just cut right to the chase. This is just Samsung one-upping, Apple, because now they're going to get into the wireless business and develop a new thing that obviously the iPhone just, is now 4G. So now we're going to come out and we're going to invent 5G. There, now your turn. Volley that one. That's maybe that's it, because they love to, start fires with each other. So.
Well, they still do. In one of the subsidiary stories, they do say that the new technology, which will not be ready for commercial market before 2020 at the earliest.
Yeah. It's the gauntlet. Lay it down.
But I'm sure 7 years from now we'll all remember who invented 5G, right?
No, we won't. Who invented 4G?
I'm just kidding.
Mr. G.
That's called sarcasm, Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, it's even sarcasm has a different accent on the East Coast than it does on the South.
Apparently so.
Sorry. How's the Red Sox doing, by the way?
Better than expected.
Oh, there we go. All right, next up, the fiber system. According to a very smart person at the University of Tel Aviv, today's optical fiber systems have twice the theoretical capacity currently attributed to them. Two things on this, guys. Craig, we'll kick this off with you. First of all, it's theoretical, so
right.
Let's start there.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. Every company, I shouldn't say every company, a number of companies have come out with fiber systems over the last 3 or 4 years. Crestron has one, AMX has one, Extron has one, and they all have different specs, right? And those specs are based on the capacity that the IEEE and other standards organizations have attributed to fiber. So here's the question for you. I know I said I'm almost K'd out, but as we talk about UHD and we talk about 4K and 8K and the ones coming down the line, the one pushback I've gotten from guys like AMX and Crestron and people like that is there's no infrastructure, right? I mean, you could do HDMI, but even that has its limitations. They say, some of them say they can do 1080p deep color over fiber, not over, for so many, feet. If this thing has twice the theoretical capacity, first question is there a way we can find this out and we can start utilizing that to say, yes, we have, the infrastructure capability to handle your 4K. So, give us your content.
Theoretically, yes.
Thank you. Good night. He'll be here all week, folks.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I see things like this theoretical capacity, I mean, it's kind of crossing your fingers and hoping it works to some degree. If you're an early adopter for technology like this, but it sounds good based on how it's how it's described. It sounds like it has potential to be something that can be utilized and that people would be interested in. But just when I see theoretical capacity, it just kind of makes me wonder kind of how far along it is and when it might actually be available, how it can be utilized, that sort of thing. It just I don't know, it's all a little speculative to me.
It is. Dr. Yoram. You got a doctor in front of your name, and I have a hard time not doing that. Yoram, you first of all, you some of your doctorate was in as a technologist. Is this something where we can start using this as, hey, you know what, we have more bandwidth to play with than we might have first thought when it comes to pushing HD and higher resolutions down fiber?
So first of all, by the way, I have a degree from the University of Tel Aviv, although it's a law degree, and please don't go there. And I do know one of the researcher, Dr. Meir Feder, who's a friend, and he is the CTO for a company called Amimon. You should be familiar with them because they're the ones delivering high definition content wirelessly inside the home, kind of riding on top of Wi-Fi. So, those are smart people who came up with this. The thing about theoretical capacity, I have to tell you that back in, I think it was 1983 or something like that, when a researcher from IBM that I met was telling us about silicon. He said that the theoretical capability or the smallest feature size is going to be 1.5 micron. We are currently, it's 2.5 micron, so it's not going to get much smaller because that's the theoretical limit. And guess what? We are now about 300 times smaller than what the theoretical capacity was. And the thing about theoretical capacity is that it's a theoretical capacity if we continue doing things the way we're doing them now. But once we start thinking outside the box and we realize that there are other ways to do things, and all of a sudden you do get to the point where you can have twice the theoretical capacity that we currently are aware of. So there's work done all the time on this. And yes, it probably is twice and maybe even more than twice. And I'm pretty sure that pretty quickly what you're going to see is end equipment on both sides of this optical cable starting to utilize the extra capacity because we can use every beat per second we can get.
Yeah, we can. Here's the thing. The one thing that a lot of video guys will say, the video version of audio files will say, you know what, transmitting anything, you're going to have to start squashing it when you start getting above. Honestly, some of them even say when you start getting above 720p, you're going to have to start compressing it. And so if there is a way we can find that we don't have to compress it, I think, all the better. Kelly, you guys are a video company. You work for Vaddio. I'm going to give you a tremendous opportunity here.
Okay.
Develop an 8K cabling system using fiber. Take that to you guys. No?
Well, we just developed a fiber system for our CCUs and cameras.
See? You guys are even using fiber. And that's the thing is, and I'm not picking on you guys because you guys do a good job.
I don't think it.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's anywhere near 8K.
Well, no, use the theoretical capacity that we just talked about.
I suppose. Theoretically, it could be.
Good night. I already have a title for this show. Theoretical. Okay.
But by the way, team, if I might,
yes.
Just one little thing that I wanted to add. We're talking about 4K, then we're talking about 8K. We're getting to the point where we don't care anymore. I mean, the higher quality, how about doing something different? I'm really still waiting to see a real 3D TV, not the one that has goggles. Something that really works 3D, gives me a 3D perception. I think that I can live with even less than the current high definition quality if it really became 3D. And it seems like a lot of the efforts is put right now in trying to get a higher resolution to the point where you can't even notice it.
Do you want to know why, Yoram? Because I think you're in a minority when it comes to 3D. I really do. There was a story I think we did last week or week before last about smart TV usage. The fact that everybody is not everybody, but a majority of consumers are purchasing these smart TVs, but there's not a whole lot of usage. I think a year or so ago, when everybody, when a lot of the displays were pushing the fact that they were 3D ready, I think you have the same thing here. You've got people who purchased a new TV, and oh yeah, by the way, it came with 3D. I don't know that consumers grabbed onto that nearly as well as maybe the content providers maybe wish they would have. I could be wrong about that, though. Maybe that's my own bias when it comes to 3D. So I don't know.
The way it's delivered today.
That's okay, yes. The way it's delivered today. You give it to me well. You give it to me really well done, and I would give it. I'll give you that. Chris, I'm going to kind of take this on a left-hand turn, and the reason for that is just this weird little question in the back of my head. Anytime anybody starts talking about fiber, when it comes to economics of scale and supply and demand and all of that, I understand very little. I understand the basics. The more you have of something and the less the demand is, the cheaper it should be, right? And the less you have of something and the more the demand, the more expensive it should be. And I also understand that as technology grows and matures, it traditionally gets less expensive. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Neto?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
So, in my perception, in my opinion, the way that I guess I'm seeing the industry, it doesn't seem to me that fiber is getting any less expensive. So, with this story here and the doubling of the more theoretical capacity, is this something where will fiber, I guess, is the way to ask this question, will fiber ever get to the point where maybe Cat 5 is now when it comes to infrastructure? Okay. If that's the case, then when?
Why do you give me the hard question?
I don't, because I'm, Yoram's got to take a drink every once in a while, and
so I got to rub the crystal ball here and tell you, oh, come on.
He gave us 2028 for crying out loud.
I know he pinpointed it. I'm already digging a hole here, building the bunker. This is the way I see the whole fiber thing. Is this? It is less expensive, Tim. It's becoming more cost effective. The thing is that Cat 5 is cheaper, still cheaper. And when you come back to the way you started that with economics will tell you that I need to build a building. Let's throw in Cat 6. It's still cheaper than fiber, or let's throw in Cat 5 because it's still cheaper than fiber. Whatever the Cat version you want. But the fact is that fiber has gotten cheaper. Connections have been made a lot easier. Mm-hmm. There are devices now that will terminate fiber, and it doesn't take a guy all day to terminate an end on fiber anymore. It's not super meticulous, still is. I think as time moves on, you will see easier ways to do it and easier way to terminate it. But you're also just seeing it from our perspective here. Fiber is being run all over the world in other places, where we're still heavily copper based on everything. And fiber is being used outside of, look at all these announcements from Google, doing Google Fiber and this, that, and the other thing. It is going to come. It's going to get better. Is it cheaper? Still not the cheapest, but I don't think we're going to have to do the 10, scale it out to 10, to 2028 to wait for it. It's being deployed now. It's a matter of now adoption. The people need to start getting into the mindset. Let's start running fiber in buildings, 2 cubicles, in homes, as opposed to, running the standard copper wire. I mean, how long did it take people to get away from Cat 3 in homes? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other thing is when does it become not only when does it become more cost effective, right? And when it comes to quality versus other stuff, because people ran RG6 and other copper core cable for years, and there was a breaking point there, and I'm not smart enough to know when it was, where category cable, Cat 5, Cat 6, became less expensive and more just more efficient to run than the RG6 and the other.
Well, it's also, think of now the speed you have going into your house, and I'm going to take it to the home side. You now have, Cablevision, Comcast, whoever, Optimum, whoever the provider is. I mean, you're getting fast internet. At one point, your internet at home was faster than the one you have at home at work.
Yeah.
And then you look at wireless routers. Wireless routers started off at G, and then it was G plus, and then Super G, and all this other stuff, and then eventually started going to N. And now there's the bigger talk of the next generation of and George knows this right off the top of his George Tucker knows it off the top of his tongue. I can't even think of the name of it's not WiDi, it's
WHDI.
WiGig.
No.
Yeah.
WiGig.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So that's the next wireless thing that's going to come to our house. Meanwhile, in corporate America, you're still dealing with, 100 meg connections at a wall, if that. And, you're still deploying out, there's still G being used in some spaces for older, smaller businesses. Some have moved to N, but it's, I don't know, Tim. Fiber's there.
By the way, team,
Yes.
that's, I would hate to self-promote myself. Wait, no, I don't hate that.
I was going to say, go ahead.
In 2007, I actually did publish a book called Bowling with a Crystal Ball, and this was exactly the topic of the book. It was how do you predict the technology trends, and what is the parameter that you're following? And one of the parameters, for example, the speed. Another parameter was the complexity of components. Another one was dollar per, whether it's dollar per milliwatt, dollar per megabit per second, dollar per million instructions per second. And those, and I actually researched that and found that there are reasons why those stay on a pretty straight logarithmic line. And it's part psychology, it's part market adoption of new technologies, but it gets to the point where you can pretty much predict exactly the point when you're going to hit any parameter you'd like. And it's unbelievable how straight it is for how long of a period of time.
That is really cool. By the way, you can get Dr. Solomon's book on Amazon right now. $10 for the Kindle version and $20 for the paperback. So.
Wow, that was quick.
I don't have an affiliate program, but you should still go buy it. So, and it's a very pretty cover too. It's a very nice crystal ball bowling ball. So, from CE Pro, well, the CEA named their 2013 Hall of Famers. So, I am going to go around the horn and ask you guys. By the way, a couple of them was Meg Whitman, the two guys who made TiVo, Magnolia AV. We're going to go around the horn here and ask you to create. We're going to create our own Pro AV Hall of Fame, and we'll do. We'll start with Ms. Perkins. Kelly, who would your maybe one of your two inductees into the Hall of Fame?
Is it bad if I say my boss?
No, it's actually probably pretty smart. And here's the thing, though. She makes a good point, though, because Vaddio started up 11 years ago, and it's a very cool story. I just talked with one of the guys there last week I'm writing a story about something totally different. But I had a very nice conversation with him, and it was a very cool story. So yeah, that's legitimate.
He's started numerous companies in the industry, and to grow our company the way it has and be the only video camera manufacturer in the U.S. and, only being the second PTZ manufacturer after Sony coming out of Minnetonka, Minnesota, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I think that right there is very cool. So, yeah, I like that. Yoram, who besides yourself, who else would you put into the Hall of Fame? I mean, kind of like the guy's a pilot, and he's a doctor, he wrote a book, and he's a lawyer. Come on.
Well, that takes out. Well, I'm sorry. To me, electronics, audio, visual, computing, whatever you want, it's going to have to be Steve Jobs.
Okay.
I'm surprised he's not on the list right now. I do want to nominate someone who's already on the list. That is Meg Whitman, simply because she knows what it means to lose an elections, and I feel for her.
Very well done. Very well done, Craig. I know it's your compatriots over at CE Pro, but give me maybe one or two guys in the Pro AV.
Yeah. Well, Steve Jobs is already taken, I suppose. So, Mr. Wozniak is another worthy candidate, I would say.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Neto, who would your one or two guys be?
I'm gonna kick it old school.
Okay.
It would be you have to go way back and start talking about Bell Labs and their contribution. That's not a single person, I guess, in what they did for video telephony. You got to go back to Nikola Tesla and everything that was put there. I mean, when I saw this come across your email, the history side of me, or the history buff inside me, started going back to, World's Fair, 1964, is it? Maybe I forget when the first video phone was debuted at a World's Fair. That to me, that's the building blocks of what we're in today. I mean, but then, we're not an industry that just came up as AV. Yeah. You got to go into the recording industry. You got to go into the film industry because camera work, audio boards. I mean, it's just so much. I don't think you can actually pinpoint one person. Obviously what's maybe unique to us as opposed to another industry maybe is the control system side of the business. Yeah. But outside of that, there's so many components of AV that it's hard to pinpoint just one person, So I would go with I'd go with the classics, the Edisons, the Teslas, and the work that was done early on in the Bell Labs time.
And see, I would do because of the control side, because that is so uniquely pro AV. I would start with George Feldstein of Crestron, and also the guys that they kind of got together and started InfoComm. And it wasn't InfoComm back then, but they started the organization, the trade organization. But you ticked off another one while you were talking there, Chris, and that's Philo Farnsworth, the guy that technically gave us TV and displays and stuff. So the way back when. So I think my dad had one of his original TVs. So
wow,
that was an age joke. So he's not that old. What's he? 63 this year. So holy cow! All right. Last but not least, and this is more of I want you guys to kind of mainly comment about the most unique digital signage you've ever seen. But this actually, our buddy Mr. AV Don sent that to me right before we started. It is it's a stop sign projected on a wall of water, and it's mainly for people. And Yoram pointed out correctly. The article refers to them as lorries, but because this is a British piece, basically it's so trucks don't go into these tunnels that are too low for them. So, Craig, maybe what's one of the most unique digital signage applications you've seen?
I think this is right up there. Although I can definitely picture somebody who's had a few too many pints in the pub driving through the stop sign regardless. I think
you don't picture them showering underneath that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I would say this is definitely right at or near the top of the list. So I'll go with this one.
All right. Chris, what's the most unique, or maybe if this is it, that's fine too.
I would say this is probably unique, unless you want to consider, some of the stuff that they're doing with projection mapping on buildings as a way to do signage. I mean, that's impressive, So yeah, I've never seen let me clarify that. I've seen projection on water, and they've been showing that at InfoComm with the misting and stuff like that. So that was doable, but actually, how many people walked by that and said, when the heck am I ever going to use this? I mean, unless you're at a nightclub or something with steam mists or something, where else would you want to project on that? And this is a practical application where it's being used. I think it's great.
A perfectly practical application.
Cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
And you get a car wash out of it, too.
Oh, jeez.
Unless you have a convertible.
Oh.
But it's just for pollen removal. That's it. It's not for deep wash. That's it, just to get the pollen off.
Or a sunroof.
Or a sunroof, or your windows down. All right. You know what? It's Friday
or you
afternoon.
or you drive like Ace Ventura with your head out the window. I mean, that's not going to be very good either. But
or motorcyclists.
Anyway. Yeah.
Or unicycles.
Or
okay,
you know what?
It could be bad. It's going to go bad, Tim. It's going to go down that road.
It has already. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap this up today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. With this has been Miss Kelly Perkins. She is the marketing and communications manager for Vaddio. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Tell people real briefly, but tell people about the work that you do with the Women in AV.
I work with the Women in AV, and we have some cool stuff happening at InfoComm. We have a luncheon, and we also have after InfoComm reception where we will be recognizing a mentor from the industry. So pretty exciting stuff. Hope you can make it.
Yes. And also, where can people find you and or Vaddio?
You can find me at kperkins@vaddio.com or just stop at vaddio.com and all of my contact info is there.
Very good. Also with us is Yoram Solomon. He is the VP of Corporate Strategy at Penview and the candidate for the 2015 Plano Independent School District. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It was great being here.
And how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Facebook at Yoram Solomon. Actually, you can still find me at Solomon for PISD. You can find me on Twitter at Yoram, just at Yoram. And you can find me at Yoram at Romatics.
Very good. Craig MacCormack, he is the editor-at-large. Yay! At Commercial Integrator. Thank you, sir. And tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Commercialintegrator.com. You can find all our stories there. On Twitter, I'm Craig MacCormack, and it's MacCormack.
And last but not least, Mr. Chris Neto from AV Helpdesk and also from the Red Band. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you.
And how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me at the AV Helpdesk website, www.avhelpdesk.com. You find me on Twitter at Chris_Neto, and you pretty much find me anywhere.
Okay. If you'd like to follow me, don't. Go to AVNation.tv. Just don't. It's stuff I do is stupid. I like hockey. I like football, and I got 2 kids. That's pretty much my life. So go to
Was
AV.
that sarcasm?
No, it wasn't. I have a very boring. This is the most exciting hour of my week. You guys don't get that. This is the most fun I have all week. So
you need to get out more.
I do. Well, again, I live in the Midwest, so it's this or watch corn grow.
There's more to do in the Midwest than that.
You're in Minnesota. No, I shouldn't say that. I love the Midwest. I probably would never leave here. I do love it. There's also wheat to watch grow. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. Actually, our webmaster is working feverishly on a new website, so we're very excited about that. Hopefully rolling that out before InfoComm. If you hear this, Matt Scott, hopefully running this out before InfoComm. But go by the one that's there now. It's pretty cool. It has this podcast, and the other ones we've got the education focus, the social one. We have a live staging event one, and a new one on control systems, which is actually kind of cool. So avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.